Hi there, Aaron Walter here. If you're hearing this, you're not currently on our premium subscriber feed. Design Better premium subscribers enjoy weekly episodes, 4 episodes per month in total, rather than 2, all ad-free and invitations to our monthly AMAs with the smartest folks in design and tech. You'll hear a preview of this episode, but if you'd like to hear the full conversation, please consider becoming a premium subscriber at designbetterpodcast.com/subscribe. It's just $7 a month, and it supports not only your personal growth, it also makes our work at Design Better possible. The podcast is available to everyone through our scholarship program. If you can't afford a subscription, email us at subscriptions@thecuriositydepartment.com, and we'll help you out.
Early on in a design project, tell your folks, go just play around with that. That's a great phrase. They have freedom. They're not worried about the big presentation, and they're exploring. And then how fast can you implement, or for me, that's constructive play. How fast can I build something, either physical or digital, make something tangible?
I first met Brendan Boyle when he was my instructor in the undergrad product design program at Stanford, where he's taught for many years. Brendan's also a toy inventor, and as one assignment of his class, we had to design a toy, a project where I fell flat. And having kids myself now, I realized just how bad my idea was. Brendan himself has a gift for retaining curiosity and playfulness that has made so many of his own toy designs successful.
We spoke with Brendan about the importance of play in the creative process, testing new toy concepts with kids, which sounds super fun, how decoupling innovation and metrics can create judgment-free creativity, and his views on what's wrong with Lego today, plus the eternal optimism that drives inventors.
This is Design Better, where we explore creativity at the intersection of design and technology. I'm Eli Woolery.
And I'm Aaron Walter. You can get ad-free episodes, bonus content, discounted workshops, and access to our monthly AMAs with big names in design and tech by becoming a Design Better premium subscriber. It's also the best way to support the show. Just visit designbetterpodcast.com/subscribe to learn more. We'll return to the conversation after this quick break. Design Better is supported by our pals at LinkedIn, our favorite social network. If you do any B2B marketing, you know just how noisy the ad space can be. If your message isn't targeted to the right audience, it just disappears into the noise. But with LinkedIn ads, you can precisely reach the professionals who are more likely to find your ad relevant. And LinkedIn's targeting capabilities can help you reach people by job title, industry, company, and more. They can do all this because LinkedIn has 1 billion members with great profiles. Through LinkedIn ads, you can start building relationships with 1 billion professionals, 180 million senior-level executives, and 10 million C-level executives. Start converting your B2B audience into high-quality leads today. They'll even give you a $100 credit on your next campaign. To claim that, just go to linkedin.com/designbetter. That's linkedin.com/designbetter. Terms and conditions apply. LinkedIn, it's the place to be. I love learning new languages. Not only does it make for a better travel experience that's more immersive, it also connects me to a new culture and a new way of seeing the world. Babbel has become my go-to tool for learning languages quickly. Babbel's quick 10-minute lessons are created by over 200 language experts to help you start speaking a new language in as little as 3 weeks. It's conversational, practical, and reinforced as you progress, so what you learn sticks. And there are so many languages to jump into. You can learn Spanish, French, German, Italian, Portuguese and Swedish, Russian and Turkish, Dutch, Polish, Norwegian, Indonesian, or Danish. That's a lot of options. And it's just so fun and rewarding. Here's a special limited time deal for Design Better listeners. Right now, you can get 60% off your Babbel subscription at babbel.com/designbetter. Get up to 60% off at babbel.com/designbetter, spelled BABBEL.com/designbetter, all one word. Rules and restrictions apply. And now, back to the show.
Brendan Boyle, welcome to Design Better podcast.
Thank you. So glad to be here.
We are excited to have you. And Brendan, I've known you for a long time. We were chatting before we started recording. I took one of your classes at Stanford as a product design student in the mid-90s. ME 115B, was it? Is that right?
Yeah, sounds right.
Yeah. So we're going to be talking about toys. And it's interesting because one of the assignments was for us to make a toy. And I would have to say it was not my proudest moment of design work. It was a pretty crappy toy. And I realized it and I presented it. And you gave me very honest, critical feedback, which at the time was painful. But as a teacher now, I realize how critical that is to developing the skills of a young student. So I will say, though, in the class, my other project, because I think the lamp project was part of that class too. And I did a lamp that I still have and I got a really good grade on. So, I leveled up after the failed toy project. Those lessons still stick with me.
Well, don't worry. I've licensed in hundreds of successful toys, but I've invented thousands of crappy ones. So you're in good company.
Awesome. Well, let's just give the audience a sense of your work. So you have been teaching at Stanford for a long time, but a big part of your work is play and designing toys. So maybe kind of walk us through that journey.
Yes, I've been a lifelong toy inventor, and toy is a noun, play is a verb. So I get a lot more excited about play. And the class is called Design for Play. And the whole sort of point of the class is students come in and hopefully I'm transforming them because they think it's going to be like a goofy, easy spring quarter. And the point of the class is the opposite of play isn't work, it's boredom or depression with kids. Certainly coming out of the pandemic, kids didn't get enough social play. Then I talk a lot about the science of play because I'm a practitioner, I'm not a scientist, but none of us in this podcast or probably in the audience would question the science of sleep. We don't know the science of sleep, but we believe in it and we know it's important. We know sleep hygiene. We wear devices to help us get better sleep and all this kind of stuff. In the last 4 or 5 years, there's been a lot of research on the science of play and how important that is. And I'm working with companies now around reigniting their engagement in the office. And I start with that because play is actually engaging. If I'm a teacher and I look at my students, I look bored, I don't blame them. I think, maybe I'm not engaging enough, so I need to work the lecture differently. So companies need to really look at their workspace and people and when they're in there and try to make it more engaging. And I'm coaching all my students, take a job where you're going to go into work. It's so much more exciting. You're going to learn so much more, especially if you're a young designer, in the meetings once the Zoom's over.
Talk to us a little bit about the elements of play or like what you as a toy inventor think about as you're working on a new toy idea.
Sure. One, it's always the collaboration. And two, everything in play, I think, overlaps quite lovely with design thinking. You can think of different play behaviors like role-playing. We all role-played as kids. We did all sorts of fun in careers or other things. Then when we get to be adults, you got a title. So you're role-playing that title, and I'm a big DP. I don't know what that means. And then you get a call from your partner or your child, and you quickly switch roles to parent or partner. So there's those roles we're familiar with. So role-playing for me is all around inspiration, getting out there and talking to people and being inspired. If I'm in an airport and I see something interesting, I'm going to go talk to that person. That's role-playing. I'm role-playing the reporter. And when I coach my students to be role-playing, it's not a two-way conversation. It's like you're the reporter and ask follow-up questions. I don't need to tell you guys this. I've listened to your podcast. You have fabulous questions and follow-up questions. And then you get inspired and you take that and you see a theme or a pattern and create some kind of how might we question. And then from there, you're going to ideate. For me, ideation is exploratory play. And we were great at kids at exploring. Remember wandering around outside, seeing how far you could get away from your house or things like that. And I coach leaders early on in a design project, tell your folks, go just play around with that. That's a great phrase. They have freedom. They're not worried about the big presentation and they're exploring. And for me, that's a lot of ideation. Brainstorming is a game, basically. It's a game with rules. And then you come up with all these good ideas. And then how fast can you implement, or for me, that's constructive play. How fast can I build something, either physical or digital, make something tangible? So At the D.School, certainly in my class, I'd love to see high fidelity thinking, low fidelity prototyping. Because a lot of these students are from different schools and they haven't made anything, since being a kid. So when I can show them how you can low fidelity prototype a digital solution or an app, they go, oh, that's all I need to do is cut out a giant iPhone and act behind it and show the different interactions. So that's lovely. That's constructive play. And if we relate these to toys, these are actually categories. There's role-playing, there's role-playing toys, there's constructive toys, if you think of Lego or Cat Blood Blocks, one of my favorites. So toy is a noun, play is a verb, and then I think it's trying to get to this fun, which is the emotion. And designers love to get to the emotion. So if you can create fun through design, I think you're onto something. A toy definitely has to be fun because it wants to be engaging with the child. I've seen a lot of educational toys that kids sniff out in a hurry. That doesn't seem fun.
And you mentioned kind of the fidelity of prototyping. And again, before we started recording, we were talking a little bit about my most recent class. And it's a project-based class where they try to make something, quote, real in the world. And notice that the projects seem to get a lot further this year. And one hypothesis we have is that kids are leaning a bit on generative AI to help them bridge the gap between being a designer and dabbling in code, that kind of thing. It does make me curious too, like there's a little bit of a worry that people might jump into high fidelity too soon. They can like create these very like detailed renderings or product ideas or screens in an app very quickly now without spending the time that we might have in the past, just sketching things out, or like you said, making like a cardboard prototype. And I'm wondering, is there a danger of something being lost if we jump too fast to the solution and higher fidelity?
So I've been surrounded by creative people my entire career. Well, one trait I really have noticed is they're all comfortable doing a back of the napkin sketch, a Post-it with a drawing on it, something that's so fast. And when I was a new engineer, computer-aided design was just coming out. So you could draw a circle and it would take you, you'd have to hit a middle point. And I remember we had an open house day. This is my first job at Goodyear. And I was sitting at the CAD because that was fancy. And this little girl comes up to me and I say, here's how you draw a circle. And she grabs a pencil and draws a circle on a piece of paper and goes, I'm faster than you. So I think it's a lot about the thinking first before jumping into a tool. And we saw this when, the laser cutter was new. We got a lot of solutions that were kind of 2D. They're just like cutting versus 3D thinking. So I love this low fidelity, think with your hands, and how fast can you make some kind of prototype that you can learn from? In the toy world, I call it tinker model. The tinker model is something we might only give the team like 1 or 2 days on. So they're coming up with something that's going to illustrate if we're going to invest the money to take it to the next level, which would mean, quite an investment.
Brendan, I have a 14-year-old and a 10-year-old, and I can see a distinct difference between the two. My 14-year-old is in the process of developing a host of inhibitions, this sense of identity that I need to be more of an adult, less of a kid. And my younger son, who's 10, has pretty much no inhibitions and is just sort of plays and wild and doesn't really care what people perceive of him. I wondered if, with your students and even people that you've worked with throughout your career, if you've encountered inhibitions and what methodologies you've used to help people, suppress those inhibitions so they can design better.
This is spring quarter, and I said to the class, about 35 students, raise your hand if you're graduating. About half went up. Then I said, raise your hand if you've been to Hoover Tower, which is a big, tall tower at Stanford, and it's a fabulous view. And only a few hands went up. I said, raise your hand. I listed all these kind of fun things to do at Stanford. And then I put them in teams of 3.
If you'd like to continue listening to this conversation, you'll need to subscribe at designbetterpodcast.com/subscribe. Once you do, you'll get access to every full-length episode, all ad-free, monthly AMAs with inspiring people in design and tech, and recordings of all our past AMAs. The podcast is available to everyone through our scholarship program. If you can't afford a subscription, just email us at subscriptions@thecuriositydepartment.com and we'll help you out. Your support makes design better possible. Invest in yourself and the design community by subscribing at designbetterpodcast.com.